What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm gonna help Terry replace the carrier bearing on his drive shaft in his 2002 Chevy Silverado 2500 HD. It's got the 6.0 in it, right? 6.0. All right, but we're gonna remove the drive shaft, separate the drive shaft into two separate halves, and then replace the carrier bearing, put it all back together, and I'm gonna show you how bad this carrier bearing is. This is wild. I grabbed it earlier. So this is the drive shaft. So there's the differential, and then here's the split in the center, and then there's the carrier bearing. All right. Now I want you to see. All I'm doing is pushing up on it. And I'm trying not to shake the camera because I'm holding it in my hand, but yeah, that thing's completely toast. So we're gonna remove the two nuts that are up here on top. We're gonna remove the two bands that are around the U-joint caps. Those are typically 7/16 on American-made vehicles. I'll be sure to verify when I actually take them off, but take that one off, and then that one up there on the top. Mark the drive shaft to the carrier so that you put it back in the same orientation. So I'll usually take a paint marker and mark it here and mark it up here. All right, and then I'm gonna do the same on the centerpiece. Even though I know it's got double tooth in it, I'm still gonna mark it from this. Actually, I'll mark it from this tube to this arm right here, and then I'll mark it on here as well, and then it'll just pull out of the transmission up there. So all right, so Terry has removed the straps for the U-joint, top and bottom. They're over there. He's also loosened the carrier bearing bolts or nuts up there on top. We're gonna go ahead and pry it out of this end and let this end drop down. We're gonna tape up the U-joint so the needle bearings don't fall out. And then after we get that done, then we'll remove the nuts completely off of the carrier bearing, and then we'll be able to slide it out of the transmission. All right, once you get the drive shaft out, we wrap some tape around the end to keep the U-joint together so that none of the bearings fall out. The carrier bearing is completely broken. But first thing we need to do now is we need to cut this clamp off. It's a one-time use clamp. We're gonna replace it with a worm screw clamp, but we'll cut that clamp off and then we can separate the two halves of the drive shaft. All right, once you get that clamp cut, the drive shaft separates into two halves right here. There is a double tooth on this thing. I gotta find it so that I make sure I don't know. I'll find it when I get it. That you gotta make sure that it's got the double tooth before you take it apart, because if not, it won't go back in the same spot. I'm not seeing one. That's it right there. Yeah, so it's got a double tooth right there. It's kind of hard to see, but that's the double tooth. So that way we know we can put the drive shaft back together in the exact same way. So there's a double tooth right there. You can see it on that one. And the input shaft going into the transmission has a double tooth as well. So now that we've got that taken care of, we can basically set this drive shaft off to the side, and all we need to replace is this piece right here. So we're gonna go try and set this up in a press and press this off. If not, we may use a 2-jaw puller, because I really don't like using hammers on drive shafts. So we'll see. All right, guys, so we got the old carrier bearing off. It was an absolute nightmare to get it off. I wound up breaking my 3-jaw puller, and then I wound up welding the 3-jaw puller to the carrier bearing, and it pulled that off and still wouldn't bring the bearing off. Then we knocked the brass bushing off, and then I finally had to modify my press, snap 2 wrenches in half, trying to use those. Finally got 2 pry bars in there and got it to pop loose after I thought it was gonna like destroy my press. But it finally came off, so now we're going to drive the new one on. And we've got a piece of pipe right here to drive that sucker right on down onto the drive shaft. All right, so we got the bearing loaded on there, got the new upper cup put on there. So now we just got to put the 2 halves of the drive shaft back together, throw the clamp on it, and then we'll put it back in the truck. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up the video on how to replace the carrier bearing in a 2002 Chevy Silverado 2500 HD. Sorry I didn't show the process actually pressing the bearing off. We fought with that thing for several hours. It's extremely difficult to get that bearing off. So unless you have a way to use a press to get it off, I'd recommend taking it to a shop. Or you're going to wind up breaking a bunch of tools like I did. But I'm not going to do any work on the Hyundai because I'm over in Alabama currently getting ready to have a surprise birthday party for my dad. So my next update on the Hyundai will be next week. So hope y'all understand. But that's it for this video. Thanks for tuning in and checking out, and I'll catch you in the next one. Have a great one.